Welcome. This is David Boles, Human Meme. Today's topic, let Scott Frost leave Nebraska. Now, this Human Meme podcast is being recorded before the first season even begins. For first-year coach and former Nebraska player Scott Frost, he is now the head coach of the Cornhuskers. And I am urging you right now, before anything happens, I am urging you as the real and true Nebraska football fan and as an American patriot to please let Scott Frost go. As the old saying goes, if you love something, set it free. If it returns to you, it's yours. And if it doesn't, it never was. Or some such like that. Yes, let Scott Frost go. Let him leave. You know Scott Frost will do his duty, and he will make you proud. And now, because of all of that, it hasn't happened yet. You gotta let him leave. Now look, we all know, as true Nebraska football fans, the program has been in sorry shape since the end of the 1990s. And that is a long time, a lot of suffering. And as a good son of Nebraska, and as a former, current, perpetual UNL undergraduate, I know all about Nebraska football. And yes, I know that in order for Nebraska to become whole as a state again, some believe the state needs a national football championship. But no, what Nebraska really needs is to let go of their collective football identity and focus more on educational intellect and excellence in craftsmanship. A football win-loss record never saved anyone from a grave and did nothing to improve the social welfare of the world. No championship football game should be more important in the flatlands than moving the entire state into the modern century, where thoughtfulness and innovation take precedence over controlling a football. Sure, the graveside and the blinded Nebraska loyal will hate me for revealing these petty truths about them and their long-held beliefs, and for exposing their beloved team, what they believe is their team. And all that's okay. Because while the world in Nebraska may revolve around football, the rest of the world, the real world, does not revolve around Nebraska's delight with necromancing their football history. And yes, Nebraska has a fine winning tradition in football. And so what? Winning games is great for the students who play the games. But the fans? Why do the fans believe any game won or lost belongs to them in any way? Or a win-loss record is in any way due to their benefit, belief, or support, or their existence. You may have a winning sports team without a fan base, but no fan base can exist without a team, even a bad team. Know your chickens before your eggs. So now, in walks Scott Frost to restore Nebraska greatness, to remake the old tradition of winning. Scott Frost is being paid a pile of money, and not out of nostalgia. He's being paid a lot of money out of a demand for expected exceptionalism on a football field. And I'm sure Scott Frost, as a person, is a winner. He has high moral character. Scott Frost is a good son of Nebraska. Scott Frost came back to Nebraska to win, and I'm sure he will. But here's the problem. The thing is this. If Scott Frost wins too much, he'll quickly become hated for still not winning enough, or winning by enough, or winning the right way, the Nebraska way. Yes, only in Nebraska can you not be successful enough by merely being a success. If Scott Frost doesn't win enough or quickly enough for the fan base, you'll be called out as a pretender and as a never was. Oh, and one national championship for Nebraska will not be enough. If Scott Frost doesn't win 7 national championships, he will be considered by many people who call themselves fans to be a failure. And I ask you, my human being friend, what kind of expectation is that? Well, it's a Nebraska-born entitlement. That's what. Now, all of this that I've shared with you so far may appear like an unwinnable combination. Win too much and you're hated. Win too little and you're hated. And it would be, and will be, for those who think Scott Frost is the second coming of Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne. But he isn't. And I know that, and Scott Frost knows that. But most Nebraska fans don't really want to know that. Too many hardcore Nebraska fans believe Scott Frost is coming back to Nebraska to stay forever and to run the team every year for the next 30 years with a winning record each of those 30 years. And hey, maybe that will happen. But really, why would anyone want that to happen? Except for the most selfish and spoiled Nebraska fan. To move forward and to continue to win without a conundrum takes change and new ideas and different thinking. And that means people. New people, new players, new coaches, all the time. No more necromancing the past. So no, we know Scott Frost has to know, already knows, that going back to Nebraska is a momentary stop on what could be, will be, shall be a stellar coaching career. And remember, nobody of magnitude today makes Nebraska football their final destination. Nebraska is now a proving ground in modern-day college football. And if you're a coach, a hungry coach, an eager coach, and if you want to build things, you don't stay in one place for too long. You either win where you are or you lose and go home from where you were. And you move on, and you get more money and a greater opportunity if you're a winner. If you're a loser, well, you're forced to move on for lesser money And your task is to rebuild your own reputation first, and then maybe rebuild the reputation of the smaller school that just hired you. Now, if Scott Frost is the winner we all believe he really is, he'll do the job he was hired to do at Nebraska. And then Scott Frost will move on to a bigger and, frankly, better school. You move on to a school that has better academics, supported by the state legislature with budgetary increases and not deficits. And you would move on to help a school that has a football team that is in distress and in need of their own return to greatness. And so I ask you that terrible question. Nebraska or Ohio State? Now, you know Ohio State always wins in every determinative, comparative category: money, people, size, geography. You go big. You take the more prestigious and challenging opportunity in the long run. Money talks, but only over performance. And that's what coaches do today in a work-for-hire world. And Scott Frost, if he is who we think he is, who we believe we want him to be, is one of them. You perform for big money and bigger chances at the ring. Because not to is to have a loser mentality. And I ask you, why wouldn't Scott Frost want to cash in on his good works and deeds at Nebraska by moving up to, say, the NFL? Pro football is where the real money is and real histories are made. Pro football, not college football, is the end-all. And Scott Frost played in the NFL, so he already precisely knows that road. And we, as fans of people and doing well, and not just as Nebraska fans, we need to encourage Scott Frost's ongoing development and high ground morality. So we know Scott Frost came back to Nebraska to win, and to win big. And when he does, expect him to leave. Allow him to leave. Because only the lifelong Nebraskan would even think that for a moment Scott Frost came back to Nebraska to stay at Nebraska for the rest of his career. If Scott Frost were altruistic and really a homeboy all the way, well, he would have taken $1 a year, asked for no salary. But he didn't, and he shouldn't, and he won't, because business is football, and football is big business. You don't have to be where you're from. I know that, and Scott Frost knows that. And all die-hard Nebraska fans, like it or not, are required to also know that. So take everything Scott Frost gives you, and when he's done his duty, say thank you, and help him move on. Because that's the Nebraska way. That's the good life. You help your neighbor, and you also help your enemy. Because not to is the expected. And Nebraskans, in their flatland-born core, have always been about doing the right thing, popular or not. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.